Good morning. I want to just make a few brief notices this morning for Sunday, the 23rd of August. First of all, I want to thank everybody for tuning in online and for those that have supported, particularly last week, the picnics, which I think in the end was a great success. And we're really appreciative of those who have donated towards the Malawi fund. And I think we're well underway to achieving our goal. Our desire was to equal what was predicted by the River of Life Evangelical Church, that they would be able to raise themselves over a 6-month period. And it looks like we're able to equal or even go beyond that. So thank you for your support with that. And for the next few weeks, we are going to continue with online services with a proportion of people gathering at the building as we've been doing. As you've probably noticed, there's all kinds of changes and all to public health advice, and we're trying our best to be honouring of that. One thing we would like to encourage is for those of you who are not coming to the church building, who are watching online, two things. Could you send me a wee private message just to let me know how that's going? And if you are among some people who are gathering others into your home to watch together, let us know, just as a little bit of a survey, a little bit of research, because we're trying to encourage people to have some kind of ongoing face-to-face fellowship. And if you do watch the service online and you're not doing it as a group, consider doing that over the next few weeks. Maybe watch it together with somebody, whether that's a family unit or a couple of households coming together. It's probably happening a little bit, but we would love to see it expand. And it would be very reassuring just to get some feedback that that's happening. So if you're watching online with others, let us know. And if you're not, but you would consider doing that, go for it. And that's that. We want to continue to encourage prayer in the church at 7 o'clock. And we're alternating our prayer celebration at the building one week and then Zoom the next. So this coming Thursday, we're at the church building. There'll also be a little bit of a notice coming forth, possibly today or next week, from Steve McClurg about a very important prayer initiative, which would include a commitment to some degree of fasting. So listen out for that. And I also would like to mention the August challenge. Let's put hospitality in the map. Be creative, think outside the box. And thank you for those who've already engaged with that. Today, I believe Paul Crawford will bring the main message. And then next week, Rotson will bring the main message. And just mentioning Rotson and Andra and the family, some of you will probably know already, but they're going to be relocating to Holland, the Netherlands, probably around about September the 21st. So I hope when it comes to their last Sunday with us, we can find some creative way of just acknowledging them and praying for them publicly and sending them out, so to speak. So we look forward to hearing from Rotson next week. Finally, be aware of the Bangor Worldwide Convention. And if you'd like to tune in to some of the online talks, we know that Jason's very involved with this, and it'll be a great encouragement to him. If you want more information about that, be free to contact myself or contact Jason. I think for now, that's all the notices. Enjoy the service.
Jesus and me, that's the best combination. With him in my heart, that's the way it should be. Wherever I go, he's always walking beside me. I'm never alone because he's living inside me. Always Jesus and me, oh yeah. Always Jesus and me, okay. Always Jesus and me. Do-up, do-up-a-do-up-a-do-up-a-do. Jesus and me, that's the best combination. With him in my heart, that's the way it should be. I'm never alone because he's living inside me. Wherever I go, he's always walking beside me. Always Jesus and me, oh yeah. Always Jesus and me, okay. Always Jesus and me.
It's my curtain. It's my curtain.
Here is love, vast as the ocean, loving kindness as the flood. When the Prince of Life, our ransom, shed for us his precious blood. Who is love cannot remember, who can cease to sing his praise. He can never be forgotten throughout hymns eternally. On the mount of crucifixion, fountains open deep and wide. Through the floodgates of God's mercy flowed a vast and gracious tide. Grace and love like mighty rivers poured incessant from above, and heaven's peace and perfect justice is the guilty world in love. No love is higher, no love is wider, no love is deeper, no love is truer, no love is higher, no love is wider, no love is like your love, oh Lord. No love is higher, no love is wider, no love is deeper, no love is truer, no love is higher, no love is wider, no love is like your love, oh Lord. No love is higher, no love is wider, no love is deeper, no love is truer. Your love is higher, your love is wider, no love is like your love, oh Lord. Here is love, vast as the ocean. Here is love, vast as the ocean. And can it be that I should gain an interest in my Savior's love? Dying for me, who caused his pain, for me who him to death pursued. Amazing love, how can it be that thou, my God, should die for me? Amazing love, how can it be that thou, my God, should die for me? He left his Father's throne above, so free, so infinite his grace, humbled himself so fast bound in sin and nature's night. Thine eye diffused a quickening ray. I rose the dungeon framed with the light. My chains fell off, my heart was free. I rose, went forth and followed thee. My chains fell off, my heart was free. I rose, went forth and followed thee. No condemnation now I dread. Jesus and all in him is mine. Alive in him, my living head, and clothed with righteousness divine. Behold, I approach the eternal throne, and claim the crown through Christ my own. Behold, I approach the eternal throne, and claim the crown through Christ my own. No condemnation now I dread. Jesus and all in him is mine. Alive in him, my living head, and clothed with righteousness divine. Behold, I approach the eternal throne, and claim the crown through Christ my own. Behold, I approach the eternal throne, and claim the crown through Christ my own. Oh, amazing love, how can it be that thou, my God, should die for me? Amazing love, how can it be that thou, my God, should die for me? Oh, my chains fell off, my heart was free. I rose, went forth and followed thee. My chains fell off, my heart was free. I rose, went forth and followed thee. Amazing love, how can it be that thou, my God, should die for me? Amazing love, how can it be that thou, my God, should die for me?
Good morning. I'm going to be sharing this morning about what I've learned from our journey into the book of Exodus so far this year. It's a bit of a whistle-stop tour over 5 things that I've observed from Exodus that have really helped me over this period of COVID-19. I'm going to be looking at this morning, turning to God to help break your fears, and looking as to how Moses did that when he experienced fear. What did he do? He turned to God, and what happened was that God was able to break his fears. I'm going to be looking at attitude. Attitude's very, very important in life. I mean, if you have the right attitude, you can achieve some wonderful things. We're going to be looking into that and looking at the attitude of the Pharaoh and how did he get on. Then we're going to look at teamwork. My favourite bit about Exodus and the story about Aaron and Hur helping Moses up the mountain, keeping his arm with the rod of God in the air. Looking at learning from your time in the wilderness. And when we're in the wilderness, it's very important to be aware of that chatterbox, whether that be from in your own mind with your own thoughts, or indeed the chatterbox of other people that are accompanying you at that point in time. And then also looking at when you're in the wilderness, how do you capitalise on the opportunities that are there? And also too about slowing down and connecting with God. And then finally, I want to have a look then about intimacy with God, meeting with God, and how those times really do propel you forward. So firstly, I want to have a look at, in terms of Exodus, about how you can turn to God and he can break your fears. It's a move into God reliance. Now more than ever, this is so relevant amidst the global pandemic of COVID-19. Who would have believed this time last year we would have been in this situation? Fears are prevalent now in terms of a second wave, further lockdown restrictions, what that will mean to different people, the health of vulnerable and elderly friends and relatives, job security, are companies making folk redundant, and how can people get new jobs, conspiracy theories, what's going on, kids schooling, are the kids going to get back to school? If they don't, what's it going to be like to homeschool again whilst trying to hold down your job? The list goes on and on and on and on. Now, if we allow our fears to take root, what we're going to experience is that our anxiety levels are going to soar. And what's on the menu then when that happens is worry and many sleepless nights. Fear in that instance then is very debilitating. It's almost as if fear holds us prisoner. The reality is, church, that fear is always out there. However, I've got great news for you. We do not have to be its slave. The important thing to remember here is that God is always with us. He's always there, and that is the absolute truth, and I'm delighted about that. God is omnipresent. He's omnipresent. And I think sometimes we forget that. He's always there. Like it says in Psalm 46 verse 1, He is our ever-present help in times of trouble. When we bring our fears to the Lord, what do we get? We get comfort. We get assurance. We get covered in His wonderful presence. And in His presence, all fear is gone. We get encouragement. We get plugged in to the source of life. We get clarity. We get perspective. We get rest. How exhausting is fear? But when you turn to the Lord, He gives you rest. We observe in chapters 3 and 4 in Exodus about Moses encountering the fears and how he encountered God, and God then relieved his fears. For example, Moses had fears concerning himself. He doubted his own value. How many times have you doubted your own value? In Exodus 3 verse 11, Moses said to God, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and that I should bring the children of Israel out of Egypt?" God responded to Moses by assuring him of his purpose. Do you know what your purpose is this morning? If you know what your purpose is, what you'll find is that the why is big enough. And sometimes when you're faced with fear, if your why is big enough, you can get over that. The second point, Moses had fears concerning God. He feared who God might be. He wanted to know his name and his character. And in Exodus 13 verse 3, Moses said to God, "Indeed, when I come to the children of Israel and say to them, 'The God of your fathers has sent me to you,' and they say to me, 'What's his name?' what will I say to them?" And then God responded to Moses by overwhelming him with his presence. The third fear that Moses had was that Moses had fears concerning others. I think this is very relevant to us today. He worried about how God's people would respond. In Exodus 4 and 1, then Moses answered by saying, "But suppose they will not believe me, or they'll not listen to my voice. But suppose they say, 'The Lord has not appeared to you.'" God responded by demonstrating his power and his commitment. Fourthly, Moses also had fears concerning his ability, both in terms of his speech. When Exodus 4 and 10, then Moses said to the Lord, "O my Lord, I'm not eloquent, neither before nor since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and of tongue." Moses also doubted his ability. Exodus 4:13. But he said, O my Lord, please send by the hand of whomsoever else you may send. God responded by providing him with a partner, his brother Aaron. There is a key here to learn. When we are presented with fear, the best thing to do is turn to the Lord without question. Tell him what you're really thinking. Be honest with him. He knows anyway. And what will happen is he will relieve your fears. I think the words of Psalm 23 illustrate this beautifully. The Psalm of David. And I'm just going to read this, because I think it's important. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me, and your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the Lord's house forever. You know, church, no matter what your fear is, no matter what it is, turn to the Lord and he will give you what you need to overcome it. Second learning from the book of Exodus is to develop the right attitude. And this is a life lesson for everyone. And it's something that needs continuous work on. And that's true whether you're playing football or playing golf or playing whatever sport you play. It's also true in your work life as well. It's also very true in your home life. And the key factor is that if you've got your attitude right, what you'll find is the results that you receive are different. The old bit cheesy phrase, attitude determines the altitude, comes to mind. It's the law of cause and effect. You reap what you sow. Having the right attitude can help you achieve the results that you would like to achieve. And it's important to take time out to review your day and just spend some time in reflection and look at your attitude that day. If it was good, ask yourself, well, my attitude was good today. Well, what harvest did I reap from that? If your attitude was stinking, what did you reap? A bad attitude can be very, very costly, whilst a good attitude can lead to many successes. So taking time out to review your attitude and using the learnings to change it can be very worthwhile. Now, when we look into the book of Exodus, we observe a lesson in attitude. Good old Pharaoh. Eh? The Pharaoh's attitude cost him dearly at the loss of many men when they went into the Red Sea after chasing the children of Israel. The Pharaoh in Exodus, like many before him and indeed after him, believed that they were gods living on earth. And they wanted people to see them in that light. They wanted to be portrayed as battle-hardened warriors, strong and mighty men. Alas, some of them never even seen the battlefield. But yet they wanted portrayed as that. They ruled with absolute power. As the 19th century politician Lord Acton said very aptly here, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And this is true of the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh displayed absolute arrogance when he rejected Moses' request for the children of Israel to go into the wilderness in Exodus 5:2, saying, "Who is this Lord that you speak of, that I should obey his voice and let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, and I will not let Israel go." So be careful of your attitude. Be careful of that. Get an attitude checker and review that as often as you possibly can. Where your attitude's bad, aim to change it. Ask for God's help. Lord, help me change my attitude. The beautiful thing is we're always learning, we're always developing, we're always changing. That's important. Include the Lord. Ask them, Lord, give me grace. Help me. Lord, help me change my attitude, change my ways. The third thing that I learned from the book of Exodus is about teamwork. Now, learning to work together as part of a team is particularly important in the body of Christ. There's no doubt about that. We're all blessed with different gifts and talents. Knowing what they are and knowing how to use them as part of a team is particularly important. I like the words of the Beatles song, I'll get by with a little help from my friends. That comes to mind. I don't want to sing it. I'm not a great singer. But there are countless examples throughout history where people work together as part of a team and achieve wonderful successes. I can remember a few years back in the church when we had a mission locally when we reached out to the Seymour Hill estate. During that outreach, we connected with many, many local people as part of a team. It was wonderful, just rapping doors. We would spend 2 hours literally going down 3 or 4 doors. It was amazing. And just how lonely people were, but the team really connected there and really made a difference. Even if it was just talking to some lonely folk for a couple of hours, it really made a massive difference. Also, we cleaned the green areas of the estate, went round with litter pickers and that, and cleaned the place up, and what really struck us was that many locals were amazed by what we were doing and asked, who are we? What are we doing? And I think they thought perhaps that we were doing some community service work after being commissioned by the local establishment for bad behaviour. But what we found was the local shopkeepers and the person who owned the chippy van were amazed by this. They were giving us free chips and bottles of Coke. Don't know whether that's because the new Big D, but anyway. But they were telling the youngsters there, stop throwing rubbish on the ground, take care of your place that you live in. It was great, and they were out sweeping up as well when they seen us doing it. And during this pandemic, working as part of a team, we can continue to bless the community, and this could take the form of dropping off food to vulnerable and elderly relatives and neighbours, or taking time to call folk on the telephone who are self-isolating to help raise their spirits. Or more than that, take part and get behind the church monthly initiatives that we're looking at doing and are doing. And looking at the book of Exodus, one of my favourite parts in the book of Exodus is the story of Aaron and Hur, where they're helping Moses keep his arms held up when the children of Israel under Joshua are fighting the Amalekites. The narrative shares how Moses stood at the top of the hill with the rod of God in his hand. With him was Aaron and Hur. If Moses kept his hand up, the Israelites would win, and if he lowered it, the Amalekites would win. Moses' hands became very heavy, so they took a stone and put him under it and sat him on it. Aaron and Hur supported his hands on each side until the going down of the sun, and Israel prevailed. Moses had a now need, and Aaron and Hur were on hand to support him. And by doing this, the children of Israel prevailed against the Amalekites. And that's a great example of teamwork. The guys were there, they were present, they were with him, and they were willing to do what they needed to do to help the team cause. The teamwork is very, very, very important. We can achieve great things when we connect together as part of a team. My fourth learning from Exodus is about learning from your time that you have in the wilderness. Being aware of that chatterbox, capitalising on the opportunities, and slowing down and let the Lord do his work. We can all experience times in the wilderness. These times can be a great place of learning. It's a place where we can shift lifestyles and change the paradigms that are in our lives at the moment. The wilderness can sometimes be a bridging place from one place to another, from the place that you are now to the place that you want to go. Just like the children of Israel, they wanted to move forward, but some of them in the wilderness wanted to move back to Egypt instead of passing through to the promised land. Some keys when we're in the wilderness en route to the promised land are: number one, being aware of that chatterbox, both internally and externally. The chatterbox, what is it? Well, for me, this is the voice that is overly critical of everything that you're trying to achieve. Often the voice of the chatterbox, if we entertain it, leads to confusion, lack of clarity, and direction. I wonder why, was that one of the reasons why the children of Israel wandered around for 40 years? Moses encountered this in the desert when he heard things like people saying, "Does our leader know the way? We've never done it this way before. What was so bad with Egypt? It was actually okay." In times of transition, look for opportunities to connect with people that are struggling. So we're in a period of transition now in terms of what is the new normal, etc. So when people are in a wilderness place, just keep an eye out for the strugglers. Connect with them. Show concern for them. Give them a call, whatever. And just check in with them that they're okay. The second point in terms of the wilderness is capitalize on the opportunities the time in the wilderness offers. For Moses, this place, this is the place where he received the 10 Commandments. It wasn't in the promised land, it was in the wilderness that he received that. Some of your biggest breakthroughs come in the wilderness. This is a place that you're moving through from one place to another. In that very process, often you will find breakthrough. Keep an eye out for the opportunities that will help you break through. Awareness. Keep your eyes open. Keep an eye out for the opportunities. This could be the opportunity of spending time with a friend or a loved one, reading a book that was offered to you, going to a seminar, going to a church meeting, whatever it could be. A key here is to be ready for the opportunity before it arrives. And then you're in a better place to receive it and to capitalize on it. So beware of the opportunities. And when they come, capitalize on them, jump on them. The third point in terms of the wilderness is about slowing down and resist the urge to run ahead. For many of us, when we're in a time of wilderness, we want to exit ASAP. I'm a Christian, get me out of here. And we just don't want to go through a period of any transition. Transition periods can be challenging, but they shape our character. Often we're too much in a rush to get to the promised land. Remember that the wilderness is a place of great transformation. The very fact that we're in a wilderness time can mean that we're on a journey to a different place. We need a transformation to help us get there. Don't jeopardize that. Slow down. Take it in. Transition's wonderful. It's a challenge, but it's wonderful because you come out a different person at the end of it. Let the Lord do His work in your life. My fifth learning from the book of Exodus is to intentionally connect with God. And during this pandemic, I feel I've spent quite a bit of time with the Lord alone, and this has brought me a lot of peace and calmness. During the months of May and June, my company announced that they were making around about 45% of the salespeople that do my job redundant. This is a very, very challenging time for everyone involved. And they were already experiencing the hardship in terms of lockdown. A lot of the staff were furloughed and they were trying to cope with being off in terms of furlough. As an environment and culture representative, I had to attend the collective consultation meetings with the business on behalf of my colleagues. The anxiety levels, for which many were already high, this added fuel to the fire. Many thoughts at that time enter your head. Am I safe? What about my friends? What about those who are the only income earner in their household? What will I do if I'm made redundant? All these thoughts are very unsettling and can cause worry and anxiety. I can remember feeling like all that I wanted to do was to give this representative role up and just do the job that I was doing over the furlough period. The whole experience at that time made me feel very, very uneasy. You had some colleagues thanking you for the work that you were doing for them. And you had others, because they were operating from a position of fear and they were frightened, were saying that they wanted legal representatives to represent them rather than the environment and culture team. During this time, I spent many hours running up and down the towpath connecting with God. There were some times when nobody was about, I would literally just cry out, Lord, help me. And I'm sure if people see me, think, what is that bald nutter doing? As he's running down the towpath. I was just like crying out, Lord, keep my job safe. And then other times I would say, Lord, well, look, I'm content. Let your will be done in this. Other times I would just simply just run and just listen. Wouldn't have my earphones in or anything like that, just be running and listening. And I found by connecting with the Lord intentionally, my levels of peace grew. I felt the Lord saying to me in times of uncertainty, to focus your eyes on me and I will give you rest, and that all will work out good in the end for you, Paul. And Moses met with the Lord in Exodus 33, verses 7 to 11. We see in verse 7 that Moses pitched his tent outside the camp and called it the tabernacle of meeting. Moses separated himself from the crowd, and it's important that we separate ourselves from the crowd so we can have time alone with God. Later in verse 7, it tells of how Moses sought the Lord. And if we are seeking the Lord, and the people also, who were seeking the Lord went outside the camp and went to the tabernacle of meeting. And many times when I was on the towpath, I saw other believers. In fact, there was a period of time in the towpath, and you can ask Julie because she experienced this herself, where Julie would have went down and I would have went down. We had you had evangelizing moments with people, met with other believers. It was really, really good in terms of building your faith and for encouragement. It was wonderful. And during the lockdown period, because we went out intentionally to seek the Lord, it was wonderful, and we found him. And one of my favourite quotes from a movie that I love called Chariots of Fire, where Eric Liddell is sharing at the end of a meeting, and he quoted Deuteronomy 4:29. If you seek the Lord with all of your heart, you shall ever surely find him. And that was very true. So I would encourage you to spend time to intentionally seek God, particularly during this period. Intentionally go out and seek him, because when you do, you'll ever surely find him. So to wrap this up then, what have I learned from the book of Exodus? Number one, turn to the Lord and he will help you break your fears. No matter what your fear is, turn to the Lord and he will give you what you need to overcome it. Attitude. Take time out to reflect on your attitude daily. Use the learnings from that to help you change your attitude. Don't be like the Pharaoh. Thirdly, teamwork. Teamwork is especially important in the body of Christ. Be like Aaron and Hur and be ready to help your fellow brothers and sisters in their time of need. Fourthly, learn from your time in the wilderness. Be aware of the chatterbox Capitalize on your opportunities and slow down and let the Lord do his work in your life. Remember, the wilderness is a place of transformation. Who wants to be transformed? It's a challenge. It's going to be a hard process, but it's well worth it. And finally, and most importantly, intimacy with God. Meet with God. Be intentional about meeting with God. And if you seek him with all your heart, you shall ever surely find him. Thank you, guys. God bless you and enjoy the week.
Great